we can go with the next speaker, which is Leszek Znieszko from NUCAT, the Centrum NUCAT in Poland, which is, I think, it depends on the Warsaw University Library, I think. Leszek?
Yeah, it's right. I represent NUCAT Center of Warsaw University Library. NUCAT Center is the administrative body of Union Catalog of academic and university libraries in Poland.
So you can start when you want.
Yes, I will try. Yes, I hope you can see my presentation. Okay, so I will start. Okay, I will not pretend that NUCAT, that we in NUCAT have got a lot of experience with the new RDA toolkit. However, because the organizer of this meeting wanted all different voices of Europe's cultural diversity to be heard, I have decided to make this presentation. As I said, we are not advanced in implementing and analyzing of the new version of RDA. So I will be talking mainly about general issues. At first, I'd like to say that NUCAT is a quite big catalog. Next slide. 176 cooperating libraries and 1,523 catalogers. It means that each change in the cataloging practice must be introduced very carefully because it affects a large number of catalogers from various libraries. Also, every time we make a decision related to the rules of cataloging rules, we have to take into account different needs and expectation of our catalogers. Anyway, we have evolutionary modifying our cataloging rules in accordance with the RDA standards since 2015. And despite general agreement to implement the RDA, it is difficult to say that the process is smooth. Creating cataloging rules is the easy part of this process. The really tricky part is to implement these rules in all libraries at the same time. So we have created various communication channels and extensive training system to facilitate this process. And at the start, the work was conducted by the NUCAT Center. And since the end of 2016, responsible for this work is the work group for bibliographic standards, composed of representatives of libraries cooperating with the NUCAT Center. And as so far, we have implemented the original RDA for most types of documents and for authority records. We have not translated RDA. Instead, we have prepared detailed instructions for several types of documents and general guidelines for the rest. And of course, these general instructions are also to be transformed into detailed manuals. So I can say I have completely forgotten my presentation. Okay. So we are still working on completing the implementation of the original RDA toolkit. And the question is, should we abandon this work and switch to the new RDA toolkit? maybe it was reasonable, but we don't make such plans for the next future. We are still working on completing, and we assume that transition to the new RDA toolkit is a complicated task, and it would take several years to complete. And our catalogers need guidelines for daily work. And nevertheless, it's a little frustrating to implement cataloging rules which are not compliant with the current standards. So of course we are considering the move to the new version, and we are started with the analyzing of the new RDA toolkit. It's hard to say that we have carried out a thorough assessment of the new RDA. So our conclusion at this moment are, of course, not final, but we can say that we are seeing some potential improvements and interesting new concepts, like, for example, the entity nomen. It's a very interesting concept, I think, and offering interesting possibilities, but at the same time very complex and difficult to comprehend. Other improvements, I could say, it's a much clearer structure of the elements. We appreciate the introduction of a clear separation between attributes and relations elements, and of course, very interesting and very important is the better support for the linked data environment. But generally speaking, I can say that most of the new concepts are quite complex, and the potential benefits are difficult to assess. And what I could say, the implementation of this concept in our current environment is at least challenging, if not even just not impossible. And quite often we have the impression that these concepts are functioning of these concepts is limited to the theoretical sphere without affecting everyday cataloging practice. And more problems, the particular problems arise from the fact that many options are available. And based on our assessment, and this assessment is supported also by information drawn from documents published by other institutions, not only URIC members, also institutions from other regions. And based on this assessment, I could say that we could notice how many different solutions are possible, and very surprisingly, outcomes can be very surprisingly outcomes from decision relating to choosing of different options. And at the end, I could say that the implementation of RDA in Poland has one more important aspect, namely the relationship between the NUCAD Center and the National Library of Poland. NUCAD Center and National Library are two bibliographic agencies in Poland, which are working according to different cataloging rules. And during the URIC meeting in Riga, I expressed my hope that RDA could help to reestablish the cooperation between NUCAD and the National Library. And unfortunately, this hope was not fulfilled. And now we are wondering if the transition to the linked data environment through the implementation of the new version of RDA could help to create interoperability between us and the National Library. However, it will not happen too soon. So concluding, we are still implementing the original RDA, and at the same time, we are analyzing the new version, and we are considering the transition to the new version, seeing some potential improvements, but we don't have the specific date. Okay. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Leszek. We have time for just one quick question, if anybody has it. If not, I would like to ask something.
There isn't one in a chat.
Okay, so Leszek, do you feel with this situation implementing the original RDA and studying this new RDA toolkit, do you feel the lack of some kind of tool that makes the new toolkit a little more usable for you?
We don't work with the RDA toolkit, so it's the complications with using RDA toolkit is in Poland a problem of some experts which are working with this RDA toolkit, and these people can work with this. So we will not impose this RDA toolkit on catalogers. Catalogers will work with our manuals, which we are preparing for them. So this problem regularly mentioned by different institutions is not relevant for Poland, I would say.
Okay, thank you.